Hello, arty peoples, and welcome to another episode of Jerry's Live. My name is Emmy and I am your host this evening. And today we're going to be doing really fun painting with gold leaf, actually. So it's going to be kind of a step-by-step process on how I created this exact image. But the cool thing about this class is that I'm going to actually teach you the whole steps of how to apply gold leaf and kind of all the little caveats that come with that. So I am going to start with the blank canvas on getting here, but I wanted to more importantly talk about the Gilded Gold that I'm going to be going over. I'm going to be using the Imitation Gold Leaf today. And now if you guys are interested in anything that I'm using, make sure you go to the website JerrysArtarama.com and in the search bar type in today's class code, which is actually like down here. It's JL255. It'll stay up on the screen the entire time, so that way you can always go back and reference it. But that will bring up the teacher's card, and everything that I'm using throughout the class should be in there. Now, if I've missed something, I will double check, but should be in there. But like I said, the gold leaf is kind of the star of today's show. So the reason why I'm using the imitation gold leaf and not real gold leaf is because real gold leaf gives me anxiety, not gonna lie. It gives such anxiety. If you guys have seen, and they know what I'm talking about, my moderators, Amanda and Frida, know we have Will, or had Will here in the studio, and he had 24 karat gold leaf that he was trying to hand Amy and got it stuck to his fingers and then proceeded to panic because it's real 24 karat gold. I'm just taking that entire anxiety level out of the whole process because this is just metal leaf that is created to look and imitate real life gold, or in this case what I'm holding is champagne, or this is the imitation silver. I have 4 different colors here on the table here, and let me actually get this kind of out of the way, although you guys can really appreciate. But let me show you guys kind of the Gilded Gold that I have on the table here. So I have 4 different colors on the table, and I hope it might be a little difficult to see just because of like how shiny the lights are hitting this right now, and I love this for this exact reason. So I have the imitation silver, and if I kind of tilt it, you get a little bit more of an indication because I have the same blue color that I had painted my canvas underneath this. So there we go. That's a better way. You guys can see that. Oh, it's so pretty. That's the imitation silver. Now this is the imitation champagne silver. So it just has a little bit more of that like champagne-y kind of yellow gold almost to it, but it's very subtle, but it still has that lovely kind of gold, real gold look to it. Now, speaking of gold, here is my gold, which on that blue just pops so well because if you remember your color wheel, blue and orange are opposites on the color wheel, so they will kind of vibrate as far as that color combination. So because this is a little bit closer to that orange, that really is a great color combination. It just makes me so happy. So pretty. Now, one of my absolute favorites is the rose gold. This is the imitation rose gold. So again, all of these are not real, but look how incredible that looks. So pretty. Absolutely gorgeous. Now, on all 4 of these canvases that I have here, like I did the exact same process as I did with my jellyfish. I painted the background with acrylics, and then I just applied the sizing, which is another name for adhesive, in case you guys are wondering if ever you hear gold sizing or gold leaf sizing kind of a thing. That's what that means. It's just the glue that gets it to stick on, right? So with these though, I actually applied it in a different manner, and I will go through kind of how I did that. But let's start with the process on the getting this thing painted up and the process of how I got to my jellyfish painting, which the first thing we need is a canvas. So I'm going to be using the edge. This is a 16 by 20, just a really nice standard size canvas, right? And I'm going to start painting it blue. But when I do tone my canvases, especially when I just have a very kind of simplistic, minimalist kind of thing going on, I want there still to be a lot more texture, and I want there to be visual interest. Even though it's just going to be blue, I have 4 different color blues here just to kind of give me that variation. That is just, I love it, and it's so satisfying. So the colors I'm using are Prussian blue, ocean blue, which is actually more of a teal. And can you tell? We love teal here. Love teal. Then we have primary cyan, and then a royal blue light. Now these two I use a little bit less than these two, just because I want that darker kind of color to make it appear kind of like a deep ocean kind of a thing going on. So I have my Polar Flow brush, and I just got a 1-inch flat. And it is actually, it starts off white. The reason why it's blue is because I've actually painted my canvases. There are several of them. But super easy to get started is I'm just going to take my Prussian blue and just kind of, this is a very technical way of painting. Smear it on, right? Yeah. So easy. There is no anxiety here. I'm just going to have a couple of colors on my canvas just to get kind of started. And the reason why I'm using the edge canvas is because it has a really nice edge on the canvas, so I can have my paint go around the edges. And if I do that, I don't have to frame this if I don't want to. But I am going to start with this Prussian blue and the ocean blue, and just kind of let them cover my canvas. Now, the whole goal of this is to just get rid of the white, right? That's it. Now, while I'm getting this paint down, I'm sure we have questions. Feel free to ask them.
What about priming the canvas?
See, this canvas is already primed. I don't have to do anything. It's pre-primed. That's why I have this pre-primed, already stretched canvas, is that I literally just unwrapped it before the show started, and then it's ready to paint. That's it. Now, if you have like a raw linen or a raw cotton, that would be one of those things that you can, you know, that has a little bit more that you have to do. But if you are interested in all the different types of canvas, go watch our canvas show. We had 4 parts to that. So we covered all things canvas and we went in depth. So you have a lot of options there. All right. Again, I'm just trying to get rid of the white.
Could you use a bigger brush to paint the background?
You can, and I'm actually really happy you asked that. The reason why I'm using a 1-inch is because I don't want a perfect gradient. I want there to be variation in my color. I want it to be choppy. I want it to have texture. I want it to have movement. And you're gonna really see that when I start introducing those lighter colors, right? So just a little dab will do ya. And the reason why I'm also using the Charvin acrylics is because they come in so many colors and they're all so pretty. I have that just in case I really need to honestly just rest that there. This is that royal blue light. And this I'm actually going to put on my palette. I don't need a ton because that starts mixing, because all my acrylic paints are still wet right now. But this I'm going to blob on. The way I'm doing it also is I'm squeezing it to where there's a little blob of acrylic, and then I just touch it, and I don't let the paint touch the lid here because that would contaminate my bottle. Yes?
What about the sides of the canvas?
What do you mean?
Are you going to paint those?
Oh, the sides. I thought you said the size.
Sides.
Yes, the sides of the canvas I will absolutely paint as well. Getting there. Hold, please. So I just want some fun color. Now, the reason why I'm now getting to the sides of the canvas is because I want the colors that I have on the top to be similar to what I have on the sides. So everything's still nice and wet, so I'm just gonna pick it up and pull it down to where I'm just coating just the end of the canvas, you know? Now in the corners, I tend to kind of buff that in just a little bit just to make sure that that little crack where the fold of the canvas is, I just make sure that those are nice and coated in acrylic. That way there is no white showing. I do not want any white of my canvas showing. So I'm going to continue along. Sorry, now I have paint on the side. Right, and let me get a little bit of this royal blue. Tiny, tiny amount, right? I just want a little bit of movement. Now, if I had a larger brush, I'd be making much larger brush strokes, and that's not what I want. I want there to be these small little movements and little kind of areas of, like, right here is more teal. There's that lighter blue, you know, just little pops of variations of color. Now, the more I mix this color on my canvas, the more of a kind of mid-tone between all the colors I get. And I can do that. I can have that kind of come down. Now, if it's dark up here, I have it spill over and be dark on the side. I try to make sure that whatever's on the top, on the edges, follows along to the edge so it makes sense. Now, I'm not gonna paint all the edges, mostly because I'm gonna actually take this and set it aside because I have one that's already painted for you. Ha 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 ha. But the next step of this process is to let this fully dry. Pretty straightforward, right? Paint a canvas blue. Yes.
Can you use this gold leaf over oil?
That is a great question, and I will get to it in just a minute because I know all of the gold leaf. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I don't get paint all over everything. There's a lot of questions with gold leaf when it comes to that, and I will answer that when we get to more of the like gold leafing part of the show. But I know that that's going to be a lot. Yes.
In regards to that last step,
yeah.
If your painting was drying too fast, would you use a water spray to like help keep it moist so you could add in more colors?
So you guys saw how fast I painted that, right? Just a few minutes. Did not take me very long. I am literally just slapping paint on the canvas. I am not taking that long. If your paint is drying, because you can use any acrylic whatsoever, acrylics typically shouldn't be drying that fast. They should still be wet in the time that it takes me to cover a 16 by 20 canvas. Now, if you are having issues with your acrylics drying too fast for you to get a coating on here, instead of using a spray of water, I would use a drying retarder. So, and it's literally called a drying retarder or a slow dry medium. Those are the things that you either can lay on top, like if you have a puddle of acrylics, you can actually just coat drying retarder on the top and it will literally just kind of form a bubble on top of your acrylics, and then you just pull off some and then go to paint with it, and then it'll kind of mix in and it's fine. And it slows the dry time. The other thing that you can do is get a paint that dries slower, like Golden makes the Open, which already has a drying retarder mixed in. Now those things are really, really important if you live in a place like Arizona, where everything is hot and just dry. Hot and dry. It's gonna dry fast. So the more humidity you have in the air, the slower your acrylics are gonna take to dry. So if you live in Florida, it might take a little bit longer because it's sticky. But that's just something that is gonna take kind of some tweaking and figure out kind of how it works best for you. But that's why I didn't put too much of the paint on my palette. I don't need that anymore. That's all I needed, right? So now I have my painting is completely coated on all the sides, right? Got it covered. Now, as I showed you, I wanted whatever color I have on the top of my canvas to spill over onto the side. So this light blue is right here. I have the dark blue and it spills over to the side. So it kind of makes sense. It almost looks like it's being wrapped around like a wrapping on a present, you know? It just, the image continues around. So that's why I continue to paint and slap the color on, right? Now the next step is to get your image onto the canvas. Now you can either freehand it, and fun tool for that is some kind of a light colored pencil. Brand is not important. not at all. It will draw straight onto the acrylics, not a problem. But what I did is I printed off, and this is, I'm sorry, it's a little rough right now because this is the one that I've used to transfer several times. I kind of beat it up a little bit. But I just printed off my image 2 sides, and actually you can see that it's kind of skewed because this was a perfectly straight photo of a jellyfish, so it was actually more like that. You can actually see the edge there. So I turned it slightly, and I just did that in Photoshop, so not a big deal, just a photo editing kind of software. And then I kind of just cut off the corners here because what I do is I take a little bit of tape and I tape my edges down. Now I start with usually just two edges. That way I can fold, right? Because, oops, excuse me, I use transfer paper. Super easy. Now, if you do not have transfer paper, yes, you can absolutely get either a piece of like just tracing paper, or not tracing paper, sorry, not wax paper. No, it's tracing paper, like the tracing paper where it's just clear kind of thing. Coat that in white charcoal or dark charcoal if your acrylics are lighter. But I'm going to be using, this is a Surreal in white, so my actual image can transfer down and be visible. Because if I use the graphite one, you would not see that on here, not at all, right? So let me grab, I know I have 2 little short pieces on here because I cut them off. These are usually quite long, but I just cut off what I need. And then I take this, you can usually tell, like there's one side that's a little bit like shinier, and then the other side is what has the coating. If you touch it and it comes slightly off on your finger, you know which side has the like the powdery stuff. So I take that and just lay it down. Now, if I were doing this whole thing, I would make sure that my transfer paper goes from the top to the bottom of my image, right? I don't want to have several pieces where I'm all of a sudden transferring here and then I keep going and then I haven't transferred. That would be bad, right? So then once my transfer paper is under, I will tape the other 2 corners, make sure that's there, of my paper. And that'll kind of sandwich my transfer paper in. Now, one thing I totally spaced on is getting a Bic pen, because that is my favorite to use to transfer. Now, I'm sorry, can one of you guys grab that Bic pen that I left over there? I know I have one over there, but sorry. You're the best, thank you. So, I'm not going to transfer this whole image. I've done this twice now. I don't want to do it all over again because this is a very intricate jellyfish. Now what I did to figure out my lines for this, because I did print this off as an image, I took a paint marker and I just outlined all of my little outlines. You guys can see that there, right? Everywhere where there's a little bit of an outline is where I'm now going to transfer. Now you don't have to do that step. I just mostly did that so you guys could see how I figured out my lines. Yes, we have a question?
Yes, while I was handing you that pen, Ginger Snaps asked, wait, shiny side up? I assume she's talking about the transfer paper?
Yes, so there's one side that is like shiny and like smooth, and the other side has that powdery substance on it. If you touch both sides, like pinch it in your fingers and just go kind of like this, one side's going to give you powder, and that's the side that goes down. Because when you draw on top of it, that powder is going to now stick to your canvas. Yes?
Have you heard artists say by transferring your image is kind of cheating?
I was curious if we were going to get that question. See, here's the thing. I am a subscriber of use the tools that get you to your finished art faster. Now, I don't want that to be confused with practice, okay? I'm using transfer paper because if I wanted to, I could draw this freehand and get it picture perfect. I have those skills. I've worked on those skills for decades. I want you to be able to try and draw this on your own and not transfer. But if you're trying to get a commissioned piece and the person wants this to look perfect, I would transfer it down because it's going to get me to my end result faster. And why am I going to work harder, not smarter? Right? It's just a tool for me to use. Now, I don't want that to be confused with not practicing your skills. That's very different. Also, not gonna lie, transferring doesn't make great art. Sometimes you can transfer an image down, and if you don't know what you're doing, it's still not gonna look right. I've had people transfer down, especially portraits. I've had them transfer outlines for portraits and then they go to paint it. It's still, your skill level is going to be reflected in it, and it's one of those things that the practice is going to get you there. So if you want to say it's cheating, that's fine. Call me a cheater. It's not going to hurt my feelings, you know? It's not a big deal. But I am going to get this transferred down because transferring this image down took me an hour and 15 minutes each time. And I mean like fully from start to beginning. An hour and 15 minutes to draw all these lines. So if I were to freehand it, it would take me a little bit longer. Now, I'm going to just take my Bic pen. And Bic pen is my favorite to use. The reason why is because it gives me a really nice pressure. It doesn't release a ton of ink that's going to be smeared on my hand. But if you actually see this from the side camera, you'll probably notice there's a little bit of, here, let me actually do this. There's a little bit of glitter in there. I don't know if you guys can see that. The reason why is because I had transferred, or I had drawn my outlines in the black ink, right? And then I transferred it down with a Bic pen because the black ink from, this was actually a Posca marker that I used. It's nice and flat and matte. When I transferred the Bic pen, the pen ink has a slight shininess to it to where I could see exactly where I had transferred. Then I had to transfer it down again. It was so hard for me to tell where I had transferred that I actually just switched to a sparkly gel pen. It works. And now I could tell exactly where I transferred. So let me actually just transfer a few lines here so you guys can see the process. I'm literally just going to outline. It is nothing extravagant. I am just going to outline. Hopefully you guys can see this. Sorry if it's off camera. I can't look away or I'm going to draw the wrong thing, right? Now if I take the little corner of my piece of tape off, I do recommend doing this as well if you are transferring, just to make sure you're transferring on the right side. Oop, if I can get, tape is stuck and my nails are gone. Okay, so if you see that, you can probably see a little ghost image of that, which means it transferred. Ta-da! Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Now, if I were to transfer this whole thing in an hour and 15 minutes, because this was an intense jellyfish drawing, it would look something like this. Now, you might notice it's a little darker up here. There's a reason why. Yeah? Hold on. Gotta get that out of the way. Because I'm honestly, you guys watching me draw lines, I figured you guys would kill me. That would be a little boring, wouldn't it? But transfer your whole image down, right? Now I will say this is an edge canvas that is a little deeper, right? So this is 2.5 inches in depth, whereas the first one I think was 1.5 inches. Not intentional, I just happened to grab 2 of this size and 2 of the other size. They're both 16 by 20. I just was not paying attention, and that's on me. But I did actually freehand the edge. So that was my little, I'm actually using the Caran d'Ache I'm not gonna be able to say this word. Wow, luminance, luminance? That's not what it doesn't want to come out of my mouth like that. Okay, but that's what I use just to transfer or draw out kind of the freehand edges there. Yes.
So when you're transferring, if you somehow like accidentally rub a different part of the white and you have extra on your painting, how can you clean that off so cleanly?
I am so glad you asked that. Now, if you did get a line that you drew down and you didn't mean to draw that down, just ignore it for now. There is a way to get rid of it later on in the process, but for now, you don't really have to worry about it. Just, if I do draw a line, like for instance, I wonder if I can, where is it? There it is. All right, so it's really hard to see, but I started drawing, this is why I did the paint line, right? Actually, let's go to that side camera. There we go. Yes, you can see it. Haha. All right, so I started drawing my outlines in that paint marker, right? You see how there's a scribble over that one? That's my indication of don't transfer this line. That's a bad line, right? So that's me telling myself no, right? Now, if I do that in the transfer, I would do the same thing, right? Just so it's an indication to me of don't make this permanent. Because right now it's not permanent, right? Not at all. But, because it's just powdery dust that's been put on there. But this next step is gold leafing. This is the fun part of what I wanted to talk about with all the gold leafing caveats and things like that. Now, with that, we have a couple of options. I'm gonna need this, and I think that's about it, right? Yeah, no, gonna need all the gold leafing stuff. What color am I gonna, oh, I was using gold. Are we gonna stick with gold? I think we should stick with gold. Right? That's what I was using, gold and rose gold, right? Because not only did I, where's my finished jelly piece? My jelly piece, that's what I'm gonna call it. So you guys can see that's the gold, but up here is actually the rose gold for like those little like jellyfish details. Because why not? So I wanted to show you how to layer gold leafing, because there's a couple of different ways to do this. Now, the reason why it's darker up here is because I have already gilded that. Well, I've already put gold leaf adhesive on that. So I'm going to be using the Speedball Metal Leaf Adhesive Size, is what it's called. This is just the Mona Lisa Speedball, just glue. I've used several different types. They all more or less work the same. But the cool thing about Mona Lisa is they have two different options. They have it in a jar form that you can apply with a brush. And then they have it in a marker, which is really fun. Now, the one thing I wanted to say about the marker is that while this glue is fluid like water, so you have to be aware of that, especially when you're applying it, especially with a brush. It is fluid like water, so it wants to flow like water, so it's going to flow very quickly. I have attempted to put this in a flow line bottle where it could just be used as like an applicator. That did not work. It flowed too much. It's like water, so it just wants to like puddle straight out of there, right? So I actually ended up using a brush. But with the marker tip, the thing to know about this is while this is great, and I really, really love these, the marker nib is absorbent for ink, but this stuff just does not absorb in it like you would think. So it kind of tends to flow around the nib. So whenever I start these things, I usually start them on a palette, like on a paper palette kind of a thing. The other thing to know about the marker is that if you pull out the nib, and actually let's go to that side camera so you guys can really see this. If you pull out, oh, there it is. If you pull out the nib, it has a chisel on one side, and then the other side is a bullet point, right? So you can get two different types of nibs, but this is one of those things where figure out which one you want and then stick to it, because it's otherwise going to stick to you. So as I start this, you can see I'm getting adhesive kind of around the nib and in a puddle. That's okay, because this will still work just like a marker, and it goes for a very long time, right? You guys can probably See that? Just barely, right? Now, if I need to kind of reload it, I will also push it down again. It flows very quickly. You don't need to push it down very much, or like very long kind of a thing, like where you would with maybe ink. Or you can kind of just have the puddle there and kind of reload it and then keep going, right? Very, very fun, very useful applicator. Yes.
Do you think it would work with a glass pen? Or do you think it's too sticky, gluey?
See, that's the thing, is that it still flows like water, but then it gets sticky. It's just a weird consistency because you wouldn't think that it's that fluid, but it's also, then it starts getting sticky. It's a weird consistency. It's hard to explain. So for you guys though, I wanted to gild a little bit of, or I should say not gild, I wanted to lay down the adhesive a little bit down here, because I already have that done up there. So I wanted to show you what it looks like when it is wet versus when it is dry. Let me get this in the right spot. So I'm just going to kind of work on this. I am going to be using the jar of the metal leaf adhesive and a brush. Now this is just a number 2 round Bestie brush. I like to use my golden Taklon brushes. The reason why is because it usually holds its shape pretty nicely. And if I forget to wash this out, I'm not too upset about throwing it away. I don't use my fancy extra special brushes for this process. This is glue. Don't put your Kolinsky sables in here for the love of everything holy. Now with this jar of adhesive, you do not want to shake it. The reason why is because that will introduce bubbles into the jar, and then you're going to be painting, and then you're going to have bubbles all over wherever your adhesive is, and you don't want that. It does suggest that you stir it, and if I do stir it, I either use like a Q-tip or like a wooden kind of toothpick skewer. The bottom end of my brush here is great. Just be very quick to clean it off. This stuff does clean up with water and soap. So with my brush, I can clean this off with just soapy water, and as long as I get to it quickly enough, it's not a big deal. But, you know, brushes that are not super fancy are kind of important. So now I'm applying this in such a tiny little area, and I actually just got a little bit of my hair, sorry. I'm applying this so fine, and you guys might be wondering, why am I using gold leaf and not just a gold marker? Which is a fantastic question. And the reason for that is because, typically speaking, I always have gold leaf in my studio. Now, the reason why I always have gold leaf in my studio, and so here, you guys can see that, hopefully. Let me actually just draw, not on the charcoal line. There you go. So you can see that's what it looks like when it's wet. It's milky white, and then as it dries, and it dries pretty quickly, it does say to wait about 30 minutes for it to dry fully enough to where you can apply the gold leaf. But essentially when this is clear, you should be good to go. I usually just say wait around 30 minutes just so you have like a good dry layer, because the thicker you apply it, the longer it's going to take to dry. You don't have to apply much, like just very thin layers will show up. So that will absolutely pick up adhesive, or the gold leaf, right? You do not have to have a huge thick layer, just a tiny amount. That's good. But yeah, so goes on milky white and it dries crystal clear, which is why up here, sorry, try to make sure it's on camera. All of the lines where I had applied the adhesive is now darker. You can really see it right here. You can see where I stopped because it starts to kind of absorb that that dry, the white kind of charcoal-y stuff, the Sorel transfer paper that I used. Let me actually, before I forget, I'm gonna put my brush in the water so it doesn't get all sticky. But I did this, most of this I did earlier today. I did it around 3 o'clock. So I know it's for sure dry enough, and if I touch it, it's sticky. Now this upper line right here on the very top of the jellyfish, I applied that yesterday afternoon, and I wanted to make sure that it stayed sticky, and I am pretty sure, if I remember correctly, it does. In fact, it stays sticky for a very long time. But I know we had a question.
Yes. Would you be able to use the adhesive as a masking fluid for watercolors?
A masking fluid resists your watercolors, and then you can pick it up. This does not do that. This is glue. You're essentially laying down glue. So no. Long story, long-winded answer, short, no. Yes, we have a question?
So Sandra was asking if you can remove the adhesive size if you get it somewhere you don't want it.
I'm so glad you asked. So, funny story, when I was applying the sizing up here, there is one little spot right here where my finger went into the wet sizing and smeared it. So, when that happens, typically speaking, I say bad words under my breath. But the only thing that I have found to do is to lay down gold on top of it and then repaint it with acrylics. Now, the thing that drives me nuts is that this is cleanable with water and soap. I have not thought about this before, and I actually have not tried it, and I kind of want to, but I'm gonna just let that be. Maybe I'll try it down here where I have that little like blob of sizing that's not on my drawing. But I kind of wanted to try using soapy water, like if I put like dish soap on a Q-tip and scrub it. I'm not sure if that's gonna work, because I literally thought about that right before the show, and I was like, I don't know if that's gonna work, but that might be it. But I have not actually officially tested it yet. I will let you know. And actually, how about this? I will post the results in our Facebook group, Jerry's Live Facebook group. So if you guys want to join there, it's free for anybody to join. And all you have to do is answer that one security question. So I will post pictures and results of me trying to scrub that off there. But for that one, I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix this boo-boo, especially with such blue craziness going on behind it, right? So let's apply that gold leaf. Oh, the other thing that I was talking about earlier is why wouldn't I just use a gold marker? The reason why, and trust me, I have a lot of gold markers, including this one that just happened to be in my office. As much as I love a gold Posca marker, and they're fantastic, right? They go great onto acrylic. They go onto a lot of things because it's acrylic based. Here it is. Thing for me is, sorry, I'm trying to make sure that I can hold that the way that you need to see this. One looks so stunning, and the other one, when you put it next to it, is just like,
doesn't hit.
Huh. It's a lovely gold marker, but it just doesn't do this. And this is the gold, so like, the thing with gold is that you can find gold in acrylics, you can find it in paint, you can find it in paint markers. I've seen it in pens. I've seen, trust me, I've gone through the gambit of gold. Winsor Newton gold ink is fantastic, but that is limited in what it can stick to. The acrylic marker is not as lovely as this, but it is still also kind of limited to what it can stick to. You can't put it on an oil painting, which is going to answer that question of what somebody was asking earlier. Yes, this can go on gold. This can gold leaf oil painting. You can put this on watercolor. You can put it on your watercolor palette.
Aluminum frames?
This is aluminum. This palette, this ridiculously fancy gilded watercolor palette that I now have, this is metal. And did I scuff up the surface to get it to adhere properly? No, I did not. I just slapped that glue on there and then slapped the gold leaf on top. This is also the rose gold, by the way, because I'm obsessed. And yeah, this is now my watercolor palette. And it's very extra. Also, it sticks to plastic. This is my little vintage pig bank. I do know Katie also put gold leafing on her Alexa. Because why not? I have done this on oil paintings. I actually have a portrait of my brother, because whenever he responds in text, he usually just sends me a picture of his face, and usually it's very judgy and weird. So, weird judgy face, giving me a weird look, and that's how he responds via text. And of course, naturally, I have to paint it. So I painted a portrait of my brother, and behind his head, I gilded a halo of gold. And it sold. Granted, it sold to a family member, which is kind of funny, but he was very panicky for a moment there. But it'll stick to acrylics, watercolors, oils, everything. Even things that aren't art related. Yes.
Does it stick to fabric?
It does stick to fabric, but the one thing, and I'm glad you asked that, the one thing you have to pay attention to, because I'm going to also show you how to varnish this to seal it in and protect it. Because this is not real gold, even the real gold you want to kind of seal sometimes. Well, no, the real gold, that's the thing, imitation gold is a little different than real gold. Real gold is fine without being varnished. You're good to go. But granted, there's a little bit of caveats where it comes to if you were to put it on an oil painting and need to protect your oil painting, yes, you can varnish over it, but you don't have to varnish over the gold, if that makes sense. You can paint on top of the gold with oils too, so you can go that way instead. But when it comes to things that flex and move and have that kind of wear and tear on it, it's going to show. So, like, for instance, I have not varnished this yet, and I dropped it, not gonna lie, because I am graceful. Yeah, I have a scuff mark right here, but the cool thing is that I can slap some more adhesive on there, and then I can just patch it up and no one would know. And then I can varnish it. Yes, we have a question?
If someone were to add gold leaf to a painting, is that now a multimedia piece?
That is entirely up to you and how you describe it. Technically speaking, yes, because you are now painting with paint and metal.
Also, there
But
is a
you don't have to.
possibility of a gilded Roomba floating around. And I'm a little obsessed.
If you gild your Roomba, please post it to Facebook group. Please, please, please. Also, I kind of want to buy one. Like, I have carpets. Roomba won't work very well. Right? They don't work great on carpet, or is it like wood floors?
Carpet.
Obviously, I don't Roomba. I don't own a Roomba. I would name my Roomba. Yeah? Okay. Obviously, I don't have one. But before we get too far, I do need to actually lay down. Oh, I put it over here. The gold, so you guys can see that process. But I know we have another question.
Just does the transfer dust lessen the adhesive properties?
I'm glad you asked that. No. That glue sticks to everything. I was curious about that, and I was a little worried when I first started doing the gilding process on that, because the one that I had finished, I did it exactly like this. That gold ain't going anywhere. It is stuck on. So, I wanted to show you how to actually apply the gold leafing. Now, I'm going to use the gold, and then I'm going to go over those areas where I had like little detail with the rose gold for you. Now, the gold comes in, I believe there are 50 sheets. Yeah, there's 50 sheets per book. I think there is one that has like 100, just in case you want to go extra. But it comes in these little books, right? Now, this little paper that I'm folding up is just like tissue paper. It's just to protect it, right? But when it comes to handling gold leaf, even though this is not real gold, do not have a fan on. Don't breathe hard. Breathe through your nose, not your mouth.
Don't do it outside.
Don't do it outside. Anywhere where there's wind or anything, because this likes to flutter. It's very, very delicately thin, and it wants to float away. Which is why I'm not going to open. Yeah, this is the next page, so you can actually see the gold peeking out. I'm going to leave this in with that page down until I'm fully ready to put it down. Because the other thing that I need, so I have this little fun brush. This is a Gilded brush. There is a synthetic version, and that there is also a natural version. I just have the synthetic version, and if you can see that, it is staticky. The reason why is because I've been getting it very staticky. This is a really fun way to get it staticky. It's very satisfying. It is so soft. But it gets it very staticky. You want the static. That's what's going to get that stuck to this and let you apply it.
Hey, your mom would like you to know that your brother has a Roomba. So, if you have any ideas.
All right, brother. I'm gonna kill this Roomba. Listen, he has like 3 dogs and 5 children. I don't think they need a Gilded Roomba. The little baby might be crawling after it with the dogs.
I have children, and can I just say that finding electronics when I want them is difficult, so it might be a good thing.
That's true. That's true. All right, so as you will notice, I have 1 glove and 1 not glove. For me, this is what works. If your hands get a little too stuck to the gold, just use 2 gloves. But for me, I have 1 hand that's going to be my sticky hand and 1 that's going to be my delicate using to move the gold around a little bit. I also use the cotton glove to buff my gold down. Now what I mean by that is when I lay it down, I'm going to use my brush to kind of just lay it down, but it's not stuck down very well. I want to push it down, right? The other thing that I have used, if you don't have a glove and don't want to get a glove, I've used cheesecloth before, but just make sure it's very clean. Don't use it in cooking before or after using it for art process, right? Okay, so staticky brush, very soft. Then if I start laying it down like that, you see how it just kind of comes up? Hold on, let's see if you can, go to that side camera? Hopefully you guys can see it because I am going to have a really hard time adjusting this. Hold on. Yep. See how it's just kind of, it's coming up to meet my brush. That's what I want, right? So if I kind of pull it off, that's how I would get it off the brush if I need to remove it without picking it up. I will touch the corner with my actual hand, right? Just to kind of get it to stick down. I don't want to handle this with my hand as much as possible. Oh, that's what I said. Don't breathe. Don't breathe. Walk away from the gold. Walk away. All right, so let's go back over to that overhead before I blow this away. All right, just nobody breathe. So I'm going to static it up. Oh, hold on. I need a little bit more static. Right? There we go. Right? And it sticks. Just like that. Just like a little feather, floating it down. Doot. Lay down. That's all. Then I'm going to take this brush and just pat it down. Now, like I said, it's down. It's not going to go anywhere. But I really want to stick it on with my hand. Now, before I get another piece, because this is the imitation gold, I still don't want to like waste a bunch of, gold. So this is where my non-gloved hand comes in handy. It sticks to my fingers, but it won't let go of where I've pushed it down into the gold. That's why before I do that with my hand, I will push it down into the glue, right? Then this nice big chunk of the gold will go right there. And because the glue is stickier than my hand, it'll stick down there. Now I'll do that again. Yes, we have questions?
Is that gilding brush synthetic, or is that one of the natural hair ones?
This is a synthetic one. Now I got a little bit of gold left on my fingertip. I know that there's a little bit of glue right there. Haha! Now I still have gold stuck, so I can keep that process going. But I will say this whole image took 4 leaves, 4 of the gold leaves. That's it. By doing this process and not wasting a bunch and picking up, you know, chunks when I can and applying it in other areas, just like that. Easy peasy. Now, if I have a bunch of it stuck to my finger, I can actually buff it into the other areas or just crumple it on, right? Now, I'm going to actually, I'm curious to see if this really stayed nice and sticky on the top. Some areas it does, some areas I don't think it did, which might be where I got really thin, which is okay. And that's just something that I wanted to test out. It just happened to be on camera. Right? So I'm just picking up chunks and laying it down. Now the glue is also shiny in compared to the acrylic. So I can see where my glue is. I can also feel it, right? That is a hair. Oh no, it's stuck in there. Excuse me. All right, and I think that's probably about it for that one leaf, right? So it went pretty far. Now, I will say also, when I did this with my finished piece, I gilded this whole image before I started laying any of the gold leaf down. You don't have to work in sections if you don't want to, but you can if you do. Either way works. But I will say, if you have any gold leafing, I'm sorry, the gold leaf sizing exposed, make sure you cover it before you walk away from it, because that stuff will stick into it.
Does it matter which side of the gold leaf sheet you use?
So glad you asked. No, it does not. That did not flutter down very well. Okay. Let me scooch this a little bit so you guys can see. Right? So I know the only exposed glue was right over here, and I can actually kind of see exactly where it's stuck, which is pretty fun. But I will say, all of this is loose. Now you see how it just stuck to my finger? That's one of those things you got to kind of watch out for, right? Eee. So that's how I use my one sticky hand and my one not so sticky hand, right? Let me move this over a little bit. So I'm gonna stick on everywhere where there is exposed glue, and I think that is it, right? Now I'm gonna have a lot of this gold leaf left over. But before I get to my next step, what I'm gonna do is put it back into the book, or the little foldy thingy that it comes with, because I don't want this fluttering away. So now comes the fun part, buffing it and getting your image to kind of come out, right? Now you might want to be on the overhead camera for this one because it's gonna go by fast, right? This is why I love this glove. Anybody want a high five? Now, what I usually do, I'm going to just kind of put this off to the side here real quick, is I just put everything back into a jar of whatever leftovers I have. We were just talking about this. This is going to be my whatever jar, so everything that's kind of left over from every color that I use is going to be in here, and if I want to gild something with all kinds of colors, that's what I'm going to use. But I do know this is all imitation in that one jar. So, just shove it in there. Also, side note, if you have children, they will clean this up for you. They get very excited about it. Just make sure you tell them they're pirates.
Have I ever told you about the inside snow?
Hold on one second. Oh.
I'm not doing that.
Okay, no. Frida can't. Okay, it depends on the child. Frida, I feel like you're gonna have to explain the inside snow to everybody.
So I ordered a printer and made the mistake of not taking the styrofoam outside right away. And my kids discovered it on a Saturday morning and came down to get Brian, my husband, and I. And they were very excited to show us the inside snow. And as we walked upstairs, there was just more and more tiny little styrofoam dots.
Yeah, this one sent, oh no. Yeah, she sent me a video of her just being like, what do you mean inside snow? And she's going up the steps and it's just, oh no, oh no, oh no. And yeah, it's just, it was everywhere. So yeah, maybe your kids can't clean up this gold leafing, but vacuum would be a great option as well. So now that I got a bunch of the excess off, I'm still not done. I gotta buff it. I'm gonna get my, this is again just a golden Taklon brush. It has a nice kind of snap to it, which is what I'm looking for. And I'm just going to start buffing this out. Now, actually, let's go to that side camera because right here, you are gonna see a great example of why this is important, right? So right there, I know that that is actually 2 lines. I'm taking the end of, and this, by the way, is a brush that's going to get very damaged. This is not what you do to your brushes. This is going to be very mean to your brush. Just be aware. I'm going to take the edges of my bristles and push it into that empty space to expose that kind of gap in between my gold leaf. Now, the reason why I'm showing you such a very detailed gold leaf kind of example is because this is one of those things that it took me a very long time to realize how to get the gold leaf to not stick, like kind of in between those little crevices. Now, the other thing that I have found is a goat mop is great. Again, this is not how you're supposed to treat a brush, but this is my gold leafing brush. It has a purpose. Right? And then you can just kind of brush off the excess. I must have gotten some gold leaf sizing right here. Oops. There you go. So now this is not sticky anymore and it is done. That's all you have to do is just stick the gold leaf down, buff it out, and it's finished. Now, for me, that is, if it were real gold, then you would be officially done. Since this is imitation, we want to seal it in and we want to protect it. Can I use, sorry, I can't, I don't know what you mean.
For the...
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I actually did want to do this part, didn't I? I can use the scraps for that.
Okay, I just didn't know if that was like...
I can. Do you want me to? I mean...
Well, they're asking how you could use the scraps.
Yeah.
So I think if you wanted to, it would be
So,
kinda cool.
all right, I did want to show you guys how to get larger areas, right? And because I'm going to be coating bigger areas over here, I'm going to also be using a brush. I'm going to be using a slightly larger brush. Again, I don't need a ton of this on here. And it flows like water. So, thin little layers. And since these are all very irregular little shapes, I'm not being very meticulous. And this will be great to show you guys kind of how to get rid of that extra transfer powder, the Sorol transfer powder. Now, up here, I'm going to try and get just up to my line. I might be a little over. That's not a big deal. But anywhere where I lay down, this sizing is going to stick, right? So if I put it down on top of the gold that's already there, it's going to stick. Right, that's probably good enough. Now, I would have to wait 30 minutes for this to dry. We're not gonna, because nobody has time for that. Everybody here would kill me. Yes.
Is the sizing or glue non-toxic?
believe it is. Yes, AP certified non-toxic, right? Here, if I can show you. Sorry, I'm trying to also not touch this. There you go. That symbol right there tells me it is non-toxic. If it has a CL inside of it, that's the ones you got to be a little iffy about, right? So I would probably have like tweezers or something, but because I don't, we're just gonna use this brush. Sounds good. All right, so you actually might want to go to that upper camera because I'm just gonna dump it on. All right, let's get a little bit of that rose gold in there. How about that? There we go, big old chunk. No idea what color is gonna come out. And it's also not fully dry, so I just know we're gonna be running out of time and I really wanna get to the varnishing part of it. Right. Put that extra back in. No gold left behind. Except for maybe these tiny little little scribblets. Almost said nibblets. Not nibbles. Don't eat your art supplies. All right, so I'm going to use this goat mop just to kind of dust that off. And there we go. It's not the greatest because like right here was not dry. But as you can see, there are several different colors in there. There's that rose gold, there's the silver. Isn't that fun? Here we go. Maybe if I tilt it that way. There we go. You guys can see it that way.
Could you speed the drying time of the sizing with a dryer?
You know, that's a great question. I don't know what heat would do to this sizing. I would assume yes. It seems like you should be able to speed up the dry time. Not a problem. But I have not done that myself because usually I'm fully aware that it's going to be a while, so I don't worry. Like I make sure to give myself that time.
I probably wouldn't use a heat gun on it though.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want something that concentrated.
Yeah. All right, now back to my original finished piece. We're gonna varnish this real fast. Now, where is it? I'm sorry, can you guys get me a screwdriver? I totally forgot. This is a can of varnish. So again, it's Mona Lisa. This is the metal leaf sealer. This is something you use on imitation gold only. This does not go on real gold. Do not use this on real gold. That is not a good idea, right? Flat one? Yeah.
It's not a flat one, do you mean?
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna need a flat one. The other thing I also wanted to mention is that this can does come, you can kind of see it right here where I had them. They come with these little like clips that are on there. This is just for shipping and it really holds your lid down. So you don't need that if it's just sitting in your studio, but this is why it's really sealed on. I do not want to use your key just in case that bends it. That's your car key. No. Ooh, maybe I can just use... Haha! Nobody get mad at me for doing this. Boss, you did not see this. I got it. Haha. Nobody tell my boss that I opened it with scissors. Alright, so I have the can of metal sealer. Again, it's one of those things that you want to stir it. I actually had stirred it earlier, so I think it's fine. Yeah, I'll just do a little stir here. This is like gummy. This is a weird sealer. This is one of those things that you gotta kind of just be aware, and this is why I wanted to really show you. But when it comes to applying this, you do not want to overbrush it, right? So lay it down, move on, right? But just try and get it nice and thin layers are great. Coat it completely. But you don't want to like really overbrush it. I would also stick with one direction when you finally finish it. So like you see how I'm going this direction? This spreads whatever I had on here already. but I'm going to just continue to brush this varnish on that direction now.
I have several questions when you're ready.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
What's the recommended drying time to let this sizing and adhesive dry before you apply the gold leaf?
30 minutes.
And what about before you varnish it?
Varnish it is immediate.
Okay.
Once you put that gold down, sorry, I have a lot of extra right here. I just need to move that. Because you don't want a nice thick layer anywhere. You want it nice and thin. So the sizing, now granted, if you are using a different brand, always check the bottle. Because each brand can be different, right? The Mona Lisa, which is the one I'm using today, says 30 minutes. So wait 30 minutes for the sizing to be cured in order to apply the gold leaf down. The varnish, as soon as you get that gold leaf down, the glue is already covered and you're ready to go. Unless you want to do other layers. Yes, do we have questions?
Would you be able to use the sealer on a watercolor painting?
That's a good question. You'd probably want to spray it first.
Mm-hmm.
But although, actually, I'm sorry, Mona Lisa comes with a spray.
That was
It has a
my
spray.
next question. Is there a spray?
There is a spray. They thought about this. Haha. So, there you go. The front is nice and sealed. I'm going to also seal the edges, which has the little bit of gold leaf on the edge too. Yes.
Why would you not use this sealer with genuine gold? Why only imitation?
Because this does not do well with real gold. It doesn't. It doesn't look great. It looks weird on the surface. It's been so long since I've done it. It's hard to describe, but I will say if you put this sealer on real gold, you're gonna be disappointed, which is very, very sad because it's real gold. So learn from my mistakes. Don't do it.
And what would happen to imitation gold leaf if you didn't varnish it?
It just has the tendency to wear and tear faster. This is going to seal it in and give it that protection that you want. Also, it makes the colors look beautiful. Just like if you varnish an oil painting, you know how it like makes your colors look just really juicy and lovely? This is the same thing for the gold. Like these are all, oop, and I just dropped it into, pretend like that didn't happen. Clearly, you guys know that I'm just so graceful. These are all varnished and they all look so shiny and lovely. And I will say, even for my acrylics, it deepened the colors of those acrylics. Like it looks fantastic. So I can actually show the other jellyfish painting that I just put the sizing down on the top. I can show you that and compared to this sealed gold. I hope it's going to be visible on camera. It's definitely visible to the eye. Now I'm sure we have any more questions because I'm almost done here and I know we're about to be running out of time.
I have at least one more.
Yes.
You are sealing this with specialized metal leaf sealer. Could you
Yes.
just use any varnish?
You probably could. The idea is to just make sure that it's varnished. I don't want to say any old sealer because, like, you never know what brands are going to do what. I use this sealer because I know it's going to look good and it's not going to have a funky reaction on the surface of my gold. Sorry, didn't mean to slam that down.
If you were putting it behind glass, would you still need to seal it?
No. I mean, I would, but like you don't have to. It's going to be protected.
I would wonder if the oxidation of the metals that are used in
Yeah,
the
but if it's
imitation-
behind glass, how much of air is it going to be exposed to? Right? There you go. It is sealed.
Do you varnish after you use the sealer?
No, this is essentially a varnish. It's Metal Leaf Sealer, and it says dries crystal clear to the touch within 15 to 30 minutes. You can do additional coats. Now, remember how I went this way for my first coat? If I were to do an additional coat, I would go the other direction to kind of give me that crisscross kind of hatching pattern, which would minimize my brush strokes that are visible on the surface.
And you said you could seal it immediately after you're done gilding it, correct?
Yes. Because you're not waiting for anything to dry. The gold leaf isn't going to dry any more than it already is. And the sizing is already dry, and if it's exposed, that might be one of those things where if you don't apply gold leaf and you seal it in with just the exposed adhesive, that's another thing I have not done. Might have to test that out. Because you know how like I made that boo-boo? If I had sealed that, would that have kept the gold from being stuck to it? I will have to try that out. See, this is why I love doing these shows. I learn, I get more experiments to do, you guys learn. It's the group thing. Love it. All right, so I wanted to show you. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys can see. Here, let me actually pull this up. So this, granted, this was applied with the pen. So I use the chisel tip on these. The thicker part is the thicker chisel tip, and the thinner is where I turned it sideways and got a nice thin stroke. But this is also the same color as this. So like, I don't know if it's visible for you guys, because I know it's just really shiny. But like, I feel like this has a shinier quality to it. Whereas like, this is nice and lovely and gold. This just like pops just a little bit more. If it's, I don't know if that's visible. I hope it is. So, I know we are running low on time, but I know we have some more questions.
One last question.
Yeah, no, please.
Can that sealer work like an isolation layer? Where you then do more leaf on top of it?
You don't really have to do an isolation layer, because like I just did with the top of that I almost said goldfish. Wow. Ooh, a goldfish would be pretty. Wow. Sorry. Distracted. But now I'm going to have to go do a goldfish. Anyway, like I had done that top of the, let me grab the one. Yeah, here it is. All right, so you know how I did the gold first, and then I applied the gold leaf, right? And then up here with the little details, you don't need an isolation layer. Just apply more gold leaf and slap some more on. Right? Now the cool thing is that you can also paint on top of this gold leaf. So if you want to gild your entire canvas and then paint on top of that. Also, fun fact, this, I have not found a surface this stuff does not stick to. It sticks to raw birch. So pretty. Acrylics, watercolors, oils. Like I said, my watercolor tin, Alexa, I cannot wait for the Roomba, all the things. It will stick to like anything, and I love it so much. And like I said, this is always opaque. It's always that really beautiful shiny that I'm looking for when I'm looking for gold. Whereas like markers and acrylics, and even the Turner acrylic wash has a really lovely range of all the different metallic paints that it has. It still is one of those things where like it just doesn't have the same feel as a gold leaf, and that's why I always have this stuff in my studio. Always, always, always. Also, it gets me in trouble because then I'm like, what can I gold leaf? All of the things. So, last call for questions. I'm sure there are more. If you do have any more questions that I have not gotten to in the show, please pop them in the comments. I will make sure to go back through and check them. And of course, if you guys like the show, hit the like button, make sure you subscribe, and ring the bell if you want to check out when we go live next, which is also important because we're going live on Thursday. We have open studio hour with Jamie. So we have, it's not a class like this where I'm teaching, or Jamie or I are teaching a very specific thing. It's just we're doing something that we already have to work on, and you can ask us anything. Like if you had a question about oil painting or acrylics or whatever it may be, there's no specific topic or subject that we're going over. So if you have any of those questions, jump on over to our YouTube only. It's at 3 p.m. Jamie will be there, and I'm very excited for her. And then, of course, join me next week, because I'm going to actually have, it is going to be Zoom only, because I have a guest coming on. Jimmy Leslie is coming back. He's going to be talking about the differences between watercolors and gouache, and I'm very excited. So that is Facebook only. You watch that on the Jerry's Artarama Facebook page. So if you go over there, you can just watch it next week, and we'll be there. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I appreciate you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.